Hello everyone and welcome to this Imperial webinar about postgraduate study. Wherever you're joining us from, you are really welcome. We'll be getting started shortly. I can see people coming in and arriving to the room now. My name's Lawrence. I work in the events team at Imperial and I'm here to welcome you, introduce the session and cover a little bit of housekeeping. And then we have a great panel of current students, of staff who are going to go through the presentation with you. So hopefully, if you're joining this session, you are considering postgraduate study, possibly Imperial. And some of the questions that we want to answer in this session is why do postgraduate study? Why take postgrad course? Why do it at Imperial in particular? And then the bit of the process of how do you apply? And there'll be also time for you to ask your questions, which you can do throughout the event, and we'll get through as many as we can. So I just want to start by covering a little bit of housekeeping first. Let me go back to that. So welcome everyone who's just joined us. I'm just introducing the session and covering some housekeeping. So the event is going to last for 60 minutes, and that's with our presentations, discussion time, and the live interactive Q&A as well. You can use the Q&A tab within Teams to ask your questions. We'll get through as many as we can. We'll publish relevant ones, or if you do have like a really specific question, we may just answer that privately. But if if we don't get to your questions or if something really specific, then you can always contact us at opendays@imperial.ac.uk and we can make sure it reaches the right person or the right department. The event is being recorded, so if you want to watch back any of this, or indeed if you're watching this as a recording, then hello, please do send in your questions if you do have anything specific based on the content that is shared throughout the presentation. But that's our introduction to the session. Do ask questions. We'll get through as many as we can. And I'm going to ask my colleague Rebecca from our outreach team to join me and is going to introduce this next section where you're going to hear from some of our current students. Over to you, Rebecca.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lawrence. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rebecca. I am the Postgraduate Widening Participation Manager here at Imperial. I do have a PhD, but I did it a very, very long time ago. So my experiences aren't particularly up to date. They're not particularly relevant to what you might want to know. So we have a wonderful panel of 3 current students who are studying a postgraduate course here at Imperial. So we have Rosemary, Nikita and Amelia, and they're going to go through their reasons for choosing to do a postgraduate course, why they came to Imperial, and what they're thinking about doing next. So I will hand straight over to Rosemary.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. My name is Rosemary. I'm a student ambassador here at Imperial, and I'm just here to share my academic journey and why I chose to study a postgraduate study. My academic journey wasn't really straightforward. I studied a BSc in civil engineering in Ghana, and then I worked for about 5 years in various industries. And then along the way, I developed an interest in data science because it became like the popular thing. But I realized that most of the data-related roles that I was interested in were asking for statistical modeling, coding, having a portfolio. And I initially took online courses on Coursera, but I quickly noticed that that wasn't my style. I required a more structured and immersive learning environment. And so after some research, I concluded that a master's program offered the right balance for me to build the skills that I needed and the experience through applied industry projects. Next slide, please. So why Imperial and what's next? So aside from Imperial's strong QS ranking, Imperial also stood out because it's one of the few places that combines engineering with data science so well. And it offered the exact program that I wanted. I had seen structures with data science and what's not, but I had not seen transport with data science. And that was exactly what I was looking for. And so far, the community has been amazing, from the societies to social life. And now that I've completed my master's, I'm applying for my graduate visa, and I'm applying to graduate roles in tech and the data space. And since I have time now, I'm exploring the UK before the next phase of my career. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rosemary. Nikita, over to you.
Hi there, I'm Nikita, and I'm currently doing a PhD in AI for healthcare, and I'm just at the start of my second year. And as for my academic journey, I grew up mainly in the Middle East, and I took my A-levels in lovely sunny Oman. But then in 2018, I moved here to the UK to do my undergraduate in biomedical engineering, also at Imperial. And I also took a year in industry during that time at IBM, where I worked some time in a customer service team, but also spent a few months working within one of the research teams looking at natural language processing. And it's around this time, so during my year in industry and during my final year of my undergraduate, that I realized that after mainly specializing in biomedical instrumentation and electronics, that I really, really didn't enjoy it, and that wasn't what I wanted to do in the future. Which is why when I picked my master's project, I picked something completely different. I was doing some machine learning and I was working on generating synthetic ECG signals. And from that and my experience in the research team during my year in industry, I kind of realized, I think I want to do a PhD and I would love to study AI specifically. But as I said, my background wasn't really in that, so I spent a year exploring my options and building on my skills. I spent some time in a few labs, including the one that I did my master's project in, trying to gain some skills in research. I did some online courses and worked on improving really my coding and my math skills. And then finally in 2024, I actually started my PhD and I'm about a year in now. And as for what's next, I haven't yet decided, but I do know that I want to stay in research, but I think I will probably be moving to doing research in industry since there's a bit more funding to actually implement your ideas and see them through. But I'm still exploring. And could I go to the next slide, please? As for why I wanted to do a PhD specifically, it was because while I loved doing my degree in biomedical engineering, it was quite a broad undergraduate. And I came out of it having specialized in something that I didn't necessarily want to take forward. So I knew that I needed to spend some time building my skills in something specific if I wanted to go and do something like AI research. And it was during my year in industry and my master's project that like I said, that I realized that I really enjoyed this and I wanted to do something and work on something new that people haven't done before. I think a PhD is probably the only time in your life where you have so much freedom to do something on your own and explore it yourself. And as for why I wanted to do it at Imperial, it was because I had the opportunity to work with world-leading academics in the field, both who work at Imperial and who come and like deliver seminars and things. It's last week, for example, I had an academic come in who I was basically the majority of my citations when I produced my like PhD proposal when I came here. So it was almost like meeting a celebrity, like, wow, these are the people that I've looked up to while I was, working on this. And the other thing is Imperial has a very strong spirit of entrepreneurship. And I think at some point I may want to start my own company. And with the enterprise lab here at Imperial, they have a lot of resources on how to get started with that, which I was quite keen to do. And you also have, yes, access to resources and a brilliant network of people. I've had the chance to collaborate with academics from across the world, from MIT, from Stanford, ETH Zurich. And the biggest thing was that I had a really positive project experience with the lab during my year out that I actually ended up joining, and which is why I ended up coming here. So yes, I've had a great first year so far and looking forward to the rest. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nikita. And lastly, over to Amelia.
Hi. Yes, if you click to the first slide, please. Cool. So I'm Amelia. I have actually just finished my PhD in bioengineering here at Imperial. So my academic journey kind of started at a different university. So I was studying in Reading before. I did my undergrad in biological sciences. And then I kind of got to the end of my degree and I didn't really know what to do. I kind of panicked and decided I'll just do a master's, which I then ended up staying at the same university to study biomedicine. I kind of wanted to get more experience working in a lab, which is why I decided to do an MRes rather than an MSc. So you kind of end up doing a long research project rather than having lots of taught modules, just to see if it was something that I would enjoy. And again, I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do when I finished my first degree. So after I finished my master's, I actually decided like to take a year out, work for a bit and make sure that kind of research was actually the path that I wanted to follow, and I wasn't just kind of staying in academia because that's all I knew. And I'm really glad I did that, because I worked just doing some editing work for a bit, and it made me realize how much I enjoyed being in the lab, how much I enjoyed kind of working on new things and being part of that kind of research that's important for like science and stuff. So I ended up doing my PhD in bioengineering. This time I kind of knew I wanted to change university. Like, I loved my time at Reading, but I felt like I wanted something new and use it as a chance to kind of go somewhere different. So if you go on to the next slide, please. Yeah, so you have to click it. Thanks, perfect. So why I actually chose to study at Imperial was it's quite a research intense uni. So I think, as both Rosemary and Nikita mentioned, you're kind of working with academics who are leaders in their field, and you also have access to a lot of facilities that you might not have access to at other universities. So this was something that really kind of drew me to Imperial. You get a lot of chances to work with other universities and kind of go abroad and get to work in different countries. So I spent a lot of my PhD in Switzerland, working with collaborators there, which is something that I think maybe at another university I might not have the opportunity to do. And what's great is that there's a lot of funding in place that lets you do that. So it's not costing me any money myself to go away and work in different places, which was really great. I think the fact that Imperial is in kind of central London was also a really big reason why I wanted to study there. It's a really exciting place to live and work. You get to meet lots and lots of people. You'll never be bored in London, which I think is what I found so attractive about it. The other big thing for Imperial is there's a lot of good career opportunities as a graduate. So having Imperial kind of on your CV does get some attention. It's something I'm finding myself now I've finished and I'm actually looking for jobs. It's definitely helped me with people kind of looking at my CV and being like, oh, you went to Imperial, like I went there, or I know someone who went there. And it's like, because there's so many people that kind of go off into industry and academia, it's quite a nice community to be a part of. And there's also quite a lot of support available to students, whether that's financial support or career support or kind of mental health support, which I found like super useful while I was studying. So my plans after PhD. So at the moment I've submitted my thesis and I'm just waiting for my viva. So I'm currently kind of applying for jobs in academia and industry and basically seeing what looks fun, what looks like something I want to do, and going for that. It's cool. Thank you.
Fantastic. Our students to put their cameras back on, and I hope the audience have realised that there's no right way to apply for a PhD or a master's. Everybody does it slightly differently. Everybody has different reasons why they want to do it, why they might want to come to Imperial. So I would like to ask our students, with the benefit of hindsight, which is always perfect, if you had your time again, what is that one thing that you really, really wish you knew before you applied for your postgraduate course? Who would like to go first? Yeah, Rosemary.
Yeah, thank you very much. To be honest, I applied to the course because this is what I wanted, but I didn't think about the financial repercussions. And by the time it was time to apply for scholarships, I wanted full scholarships. Like, if it's not full funded, I'm not applying, even if I'm eligible for it. But now that I think about it, I probably should have applied to even the partial ones because they do add up. 5,000 here, 15,000 here adds up. And if you get them, it's better than having nothing because you didn't get the 100% scholarship. So yeah, I wish I had applied for even the partial scholarships. Yeah, thank you.
Lovely.
I don't mind going next. I think, yeah, kind of similar to what Rosemary said with funding. What I also didn't realize was an option is a lot of PhD programs offer an MRes year. So if doing research is something you're interested in, a lot of them will pay for that MRes year plus the 3 years of a PhD. So rather than kind of doing what I did, where I had a separate MRes and then a separate PhD, you get it all in one and you get funding for it. So it's definitely worth looking into. And I know a lot of courses at Imperial offer that MRes plus PhD. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice. And quite frequently you'll see them advertised as 1+3 PhDs. So you have that 1 year as your MRes and then your 3 years for the PhD. Nikita, what would you like to have known before you applied?
I think just how unstructured a PhD actually is, and how sort of overwhelming it can be because you need a lot of self-motivation and discipline. And I think that means that it's really important that you have a good support system in place, and that starts with your supervisor. So make sure when you pick your supervisor, you're not just picking someone that you think does a lot of cool research, which is of course important, but someone you know that you'll work well with in the long term, that you know, because there's a lot of ups and downs that you know in the down times that they will help you through it and guide you and be there to help support you through the whole thing, I think is important.
Absolutely, that supervisor relationship is really important for your 3-4 years that you are with them. So really useful. On to my next question, and audience, we will have time at the end for a much wider Q&A. But if you were advising a prospective student, so maybe somebody that's watching today, what one piece of advice would you give them at the moment before they start thinking about actually diving into that application process?
I guess I'll go again since I started. I think you have to come prepared. If you've been out of school for a while, like I was, you need to brush up on some of your notes. You are coming to do a data science course, brush up on calculus. Don't come and be seeing stars. You need to come because some of your mates will be fresh out of undergraduate and will still have these things at the back of their mind. And if you do find yourself in a situation where you do not understand something in class and everybody seems to understand it, put your hand up and ask, because there are people who also do not understand it just like you. So don't feel shy. And also be more, participate in like students' life, the societies. You make friends there, you feel part of the school because it's just 1 year and it's very fast. If you just do academics because you didn't really brush up on anything, so now you are catching up, you would find yourself like missing out on the holistic experience that Imperial has to offer. Thank you.
Fantastic. I think at last count we have something like 340-ish different clubs and societies. So hopefully there's something for everyone there. And yes, Rosemary, that year goes so quickly. So being able to hit the ground running a little bit is really useful. Amelia, Nikita, what would you like to add?
I don't mind going first. So I think for me it was, I wish I'd taken the time to look at all the different courses that were available. I kind of was like, oh, I have a biology degree. I kind of like biomedicine. I'll do a biomedicine master's. I never looked at more master's programs than the one I applied for. I kind of wish I'd done a bit more research, looked around, because it's a really good opportunity to specialize in something that you really enjoyed at undergrad, or if you're looking to completely change degree or kind of education background, it's a really good chance to do that. So yeah, definitely in hindsight, I think I wish I'd sat down and be like, what do I enjoy? What specifically do I want to study? And maybe picked a master's that was a bit more tailored towards kind of getting you into that career. Rather than just kind of like I did like my master's and it got me to kind of where I am now, but it would have been nice to kind of specialize a bit earlier. So yeah, that's definitely my advice.
Yeah, absolutely. I would also say that research is very multidisciplinary. So the area that you want to go in, there might be elements of that in like departments that you've never even contemplated. So it's worth like really doing your research to find out, okay, well, I want to do something in AI, for example. And AI is massive and it is involved in so many things at the moment. So you might end up looking at computing or medicine or physics or lots of different things. So definitely keep your eye open as to where else those courses might be. Nikita, what would you like to add?
I think I have two things. I think the first thing would be that you make sure that you keep applying to both PhDs and funding until you get both of them, because just because you have one doesn't mean that you're guaranteed the second, and you really need both to get started. And similar to what you've just said, yes, make sure you're looking at different departments, because I ended up in the electrical engineering department, and that's not where it initially started looking for an AI in healthcare PhD. Sometimes the kind of project you want can be found in various different departments. And I think I wish I had spoken to a few PhDs within the lab that I was working to before I joined. I got lucky in that the working styles and stuff, and how much contact time I have with my supervisor worked really well for me. But I know that different labs run very differently now. So I think it would have been good to spend some time speaking to people who already were in the lab to know how that particular lab worked.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic piece of advice. You know, you might get interviewed for a master's or a PhD, and in that moment, just think about that you're also interviewing the supervisor. You need to make sure that you can work well with them for the next few years. Thank you so much to our student panel for sharing their experiences. They will be here for the rest of the webinar, and they'll come back on later on for the Q&A. So if you have any questions for anyone specifically, pop their name just before your question so we know who to go to. But I will now hand over to Chloe for the next part.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Lovely to meet everybody. My name is Chloe and I'm the Senior International Officer for Southeast Asia and Australasia here at Imperial College London. And I'm going to provide just a quick overview of who we are and a little bit more detail on the application process if you are a prospective student who's interested in finding out more. So if you weren't familiar, Imperial is a world-leading university for STEM. So we are STEM specific, so it is all science, technology, engineering, medicine and business. As Rebecca just touched upon, that does mean that our departments have got these wonderful relationships with one another because everything feeds into another here at Imperial. So the world of mathematics feeds into the world of medicine, medicine works with engineering, and it goes on and on. So if you are a specialist and that's what you know you love and that's what you know you want to continue, we're a wonderful place to do that. So a little bit of background on Imperial. We're well over 100 years old now, with our original buildings going up around 1907. Originally founded by Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, who essentially wanted to establish a university which would rival certain other institutions such as MIT in terms of their science, engineering and sort of mathematics, STEM industries. And that's certainly what we've been able to achieve. So we have around 23,000 full and part-time students. So that is a medium-sized institution within the UK. And we're built across 4 different faculties, which I will also go over. We have 9 campuses, including 6 hospital campuses for our medical students, but primarily most students are based either in South Kensington, which is the beautiful campus you'll see in front of you now, and across our White City campus, which is around 25 minutes away. In terms of our student course catalogue, we have over 200 postgraduate courses, which are all available to view on the website, and we're very transparent in terms of you'll be able to see exactly what modules you'll be studying, how you'll be assessed, how you'll be taught, etc. So that's all available to you. And we have around 40% home students and 60% international, making us one of the most international universities in the world, welcoming students from well over 135 different nationalities. Next slide, please. So naturally, our reputation internationally and in the UK is something we're exceptionally proud of. So QS actually ranked us as number 2 worldwide for this year and number 1 in the UK and Europe. Now, different league tables will be looking at varying different things when they're looking at the university. But the most important thing to note with Imperial is that no matter what you're measuring us on, it could be academic reputation or employer reputation, sustainability, graduate outcomes, we will always be delivering that excellence. So if you'd like to find out more about why we were awarded this, please do go onto the QS World University Rankings website. And next slide, please. So we're also University of the Year for graduate employment. So this was built upon a number of different findings, but essentially Imperial College London students go on to earn significantly more than students from other UK universities. They also find jobs quicker, which are of the highly skilled level as well. We also have a greater proportion of world-leading research than any other UK university. And London has actually been voted as the #1 student city in the UK and Europe, and it's won that for around 5 years running now, and there's a multitude of reasons why. London is known as the academic capital of the world. We have over 45 universities just in our one city. It's a hub of museums, of libraries, of institutions, researchers, companies, businesses, and graduates really flock to that city to make the most of those opportunities that are afforded to you while you're here. We're also ranked 3rd in Europe and 8th in the world by Time to Education, the World University Rankings. But again, the stats, they speak for themselves, but do have a look at what means the most to you when you're choosing university. We're top in the UK for research excellence. So what that means is that we have a greater proportion of world-leading research than any other UK university, and we're first for research output amongst the Russell Group. And this is a reputation that we keep building upon. So you'll see that we have 4 or 5 different research hubs, which are like mini universities within themselves, and every single area of our institution is really building on those foundations for world-leading research. We are science for humanity. You can see some of the different initiatives we've highlighted here, such as interactive energy modelling tools. We've got vaccine manufacturing hubs, physics experiments looking into dark matter and energy. Imperial scientists are currently even genetically modifying mosquitoes so that they can no longer spread malaria. We were influential in the manufacture and creation of the vaccinations against COVID-19. Again, find out what means most to you and see what Imperial is doing in the world around it. This is just a brief overview of some of our faculties. So within the Faculty of Engineering, you can see that we are highly specialised and offer most of the main categories of engineering within this. We also have our other faculties. So we have our Faculty of Natural Sciences, which has our Centre for Environmental Policy, Chemistry, Life Science, Mathematics and Physics, all of which have a large postgraduate catalogue within them. Our Faculty of Medicine, so Brain Sciences, Immunology, we have our School of Public Health, Surgery and Cancer. And again, there's all different types of courses that you can do within this, no matter which stage of the postgraduate journey you're on. It could be postdoctoral, could be master's, could be PhD. We also have a world-leading business school which specialises in marketing, analytics, economic, public policy, innovation and entrepreneurship, and has frequently been ranked as one of the best business schools in the world, and that is based on our South Kensington campus. We have our PhD training centres. So again, this is actually funded by government research councils, and it is a fully funded training programme, which follows a 1+3 model of a master's course and a PhD, which I know we were speaking about earlier. But essentially it is an interdisciplinary training environment, which means that there'll be much industrial placement within these courses. And it's in a multitude of different subject areas as well, whether it's mathematics or computing. There's a large course catalogue. So this is just a little more insight into our master's qualifications. So in terms of what's on offer, we have PG Certs and PG Dips, as they're known fondly, which are full and part-time courses. So you can take these as a standalone course to add towards your, say, employability, or if you have a research interest, but there are ways that you can also add on a dissertation to create a full master's program with these as well. So it is possible to expand upon them. We have the traditional route of a master's, so the MSc, a Master's of Science, which is going to be traditional traditional teaching, so classroom-based, quite similar to an undergraduate format, and that takes place between October and June, of which class stops, and then you go on to undertake your research projects or your final year practical year projects. And then we have our MReses as well. So if you are someone who very much wants to be in the driving seat, say you have your own idea, you already know what you would like to research, perhaps you're thinking about doing a PhD, this is a really fantastic route for you, which is a little bit more hands-off with plenty of support from your tutors and your lecturers, much like a PhD. We also have our MBAs. So if you already have some experience in your workplace and you're looking to enhance your career, go on to more senior strategic leadership positions, we have our 4-year-long MBA positions, which are within our business school. We also have our Masters of Education and Masters of Public Health as well. PhDs, so we've already had a lot of chat about PhDs today. So again, it's a very flexible format with a PhD, but normally you're looking at around 3 to 4 years of research and 6 months for writing up, although again, you can tailor this to your own research project. We also have our engineering doctorates, and what's different about these is that 50 to 70% of it will be spent in an industry placement. So perhaps if your line of research is very much related to your line of work, this is an excellent option for you. And we also have our MD Res. So this is trained to PhD level for qualified clinicians. So it is much shorter and it is more focused on the clinical research. So you'll most likely already be working within this industry. Now at Imperial, it's very much about learning in and outside of the classroom, and it's about enhancing your soft skills and your research skills at the same time to ensure that you are ready for graduate employment. So we have tailored courses and workshops for masters and research students. So this could be on all different types of interview processes, so say even presentation skills, or maybe it's Excel skills you need to work on, right round into very subject specific courses as well. We have research seminars, visiting lecturers throughout the year, and every single member of our postgraduate community will be able to get involved and enroll themselves onto these courses to complement their programme. Now, how to apply for an Imperial Master's course. So at the start, we'll be looking for a good first degree. Now, each course that we're offering might be asking for different entry requirements. So the most important thing for you to do is to go onto our website and double check what the entry requirements for your chosen Master's or PhD course is. Now, you can choose up to 2 courses, although there are exceptions within that business school, and you'll be applying directly to us at Imperial via our platform. Now, our departments all do things a little bit differently. So some of them will be using application rounds, where you'll have 1 to 4 rounds throughout the year that have different application end and start and end points. And others are just on a rolling basis and will close when they've received enough applications. So it's really important to stay informed on the website and make sure that you know what course application process your department will be going to. Another thing to be aware of is scholarship deadlines. So scholarship deadlines may close before applications close. Where there is such flexibility in the departments between rounds or on a rolling basis, it means that scholarships can pop up and then they might close before you've even applied. So our advice at Imperial is to start the application process as early as possible within the academic year if you're applying for a master's, just to ensure that you've applied for funding before those deadlines. And it's also good to be in the know around ATAS. So some courses will require the Academic Technology Approval Scheme. This takes a little while to apply for. It's a very straightforward process. However, you do need to know if your course requires this from you, as it can add a little bit of time onto your application, and we don't want there to be any delays. So for an application onto a PhD, again, for the entry requirement, this may differ by department, but normally we'll need a relevant master's qualification. Now, when you're starting your research, the best thing to do is to go through our website and have a look at the supervisors that are working within our departments, and then familiarise yourself with the work that they are doing and make sure that it is relevant to what you would like to research. Once you've done this and you've really narrowed down that search, you can contact potential supervisors if you're advised to on the web pages. So many of them will list their email addresses and contact details. And then you can start an informal discussion with your prospective PhD supervisor about the topic you would like to do. This looks different for every student. Many times it will be a simple coffee meeting, or it might be extensive correspondence over email to make sure that they are the right supervisor for you. Once you have that confirmed, you can apply online directly to us at Imperial with details of who has agreed to be your supervisor alongside your research topic. And it is incredibly flexible. You can do this at any time throughout the year. Also, though, just be wary that you may have to wait for an ATAS clearance to come through if your PhD requires one. So accommodation. So the wonderful thing about London is that we do have so many students, which means that we have a lot of different graduate accommodation options. So we work with GradPad, which is purpose-built postgraduate accommodation. So you'll be living with other postgraduate students. We also have single and couples accommodation at Imperial's Silwood Park campus. If your course requires you to be studying at Silwood Park, this is an excellent option for you. Now, we do also offer extensive assistance with finding a place to live if you are unsure about GradPad or you want to look at different options. There are plenty of different private landlords and also private halls of residence within London, so you could end up living with students from another university, but we can help you. So we can tell you if you have a particular budget, we can assist you with that. If you're not sure what area of London is best for your course, we can help you with that too, alongside find a flatmate events and your private housing events. Upon receiving an offer at Imperial College London, you'll also receive an invitation to join our online platform UniBuddy, where it's essentially an online chat forum, so you can meet other students from your course who are also perhaps looking for places to live. So we do help connect you, and there's a lot of flexibility with the London housing market to find you accommodation. In terms of the support, you'll have an excellent relationship with either your course director if you're doing a master's or your academic supervisor with your research, many of which will have office hours throughout the week where you can drop in and discuss any concerns that you have. But in general, the lecturers at Imperial are known for being very communicative throughout the academic year for your support, alongside your departmental PG tutor or the director of PG studies. We also have our subject librarians who are based in our library in South Kensington, and they are absolutely excellent. I've even heard of one of them going so far as to fly to Jordan to get a student a particular book that they needed. So they are very, very useful when you're looking up particularly niche topics or you're in the depths of your research. We also have plenty of personal wellbeing support here. So we have our Imperial College Union, which is known for running all of our clubs and societies, of which there are 340, which is, I think, one of the top numbers in the UK for the amount of societies that we have, alongside being able to provide impartial advice to you when you're here. We have student counselling and mental health advice, disability advisory service. We have chaplaincy, and your healthcare is all provided for on site with our NHS healthcare and dental surgery. And the idea is that there should not be any blockers or barricades that stop you from accessing education here at Imperial. So the support is very much in place. Now, our alumni network. So being such an international university, Imperial alumni are spread around the globe, and we have over 210,000. We have got our online platform Plexus. So upon graduating, you'll be added to Plexus where you can connect with alumni. And through this, I've seen so many students really grasp incredible opportunities. It could be advice from other alumni who are in a similar field to you. It could be different CPD events, webinars, professional networking. And we also have our Alumni Visitor Centre in South Kensington, which is a beautiful working space which you'll be able to use for life as an Imperial graduate. In terms of our career support, so as I said earlier, we are #1 in the UK for graduate prospects, and that is no accident. It's part of a tailored career support programme. So we have employer events where industry leaders and representatives come to our campus looking to provide Imperial students with opportunities. And the results do show for themselves, with 97% of our postgraduate survey respondents are in further employment or further study 15 months after graduating. And the key term here is that is also into highly skilled work or employment too. We also have our alumni engagement programs as well, so you can go through mentoring, and as I said earlier, plenty of professional events where you can engage with them and help, create that community where Imperial graduates support one another and help them access the best opportunities. So that was our quick roundup of Imperial, who we are, how to apply, and I hope that you found that very, very helpful. So we're going to move on now to the Q&A part of today. So please do get going on that button, and we'll invite our panel members back onto camera now, and hopefully we can answer some of your questions. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, everyone. I'm Lawrence. If anyone missed me at the start from the events team, and I'll just be helping chair and facilitate the Q&A now, and we'll try and get through as many questions as we can. Just to say, obviously, we know we've got people from interested in all sorts of different courses, different types of program. So obviously we're trying to cover a lot of content and keep things quite general, but I just wanted to signpost before we go into Q&A is that if you are able to travel to campus, then there are regular campus tours to come and see what campus is actually like. We'll be doing other online sessions about admissions, but departments themselves will be, offer all sorts of different things or online events or things you can get involved in to get a flavor for Imperial. You can chat to students through the UniBuddy platform that we have online. So there's lots of other ways to engage with us. But we'll go into some questions now. Some are quite specific, so we may not be able to get into lots and lots of detail for specific programs, but I think we've had a few good questions, people asking about applying for more than one PhD or how they apply for a PhD. So perhaps for Nikita and Amelia, perhaps we'd come to you just kind of expanding a little bit on your experience of that application process for the PhD and kind of how that happened for you. As we mentioned, it's different, but maybe if we go to Nikita first and then go to Amelia.
Sure. I think we're allowed to apply for 2 PhD positions per cycle. I think that's what it is, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong about that. But I think that's what it was when I applied. And how I went about picking it was I first picked one that was a CDT, a Center for Doctoral Training. I think Chloe went through what that was, and it's where you have access to more than just a PhD. It's usually also an MRes year, and you have access to a network and extra training. Very cool, but I think it's important to be aware that if you're an international student like I am, there are fewer fully funded places available on those. So for the second one, as a result, I decided to apply for a separate PhD, not a program, one with a specific supervisor where she had a different pot of funding, so that I had 2 options for both, I guess, getting a PhD and getting the right funding. And I would say when you're applying, don't be afraid as an international student to ask at the start whether they do in fact have funding or what are the options for it, because it's a very valid concern and it is something that you need to be upfront about, I think. And there's lots of options for funding as well. So there's loads of scholarships that are separate to departments. And so our own department has like a women's scholarship, but there are separate deadlines for that. So you need to be very proactive, I think, about it. But yes, I would say explore your options and make sure you cast, I think, a wide net and don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, so kind of similar. I did the same with looking at kind of different PhDs. So I actually used Find a PhD, which is just a website. I'd really recommend it because they put positions up. So rather than kind of approaching a supervisor about a project you want to do specifically, they'll put up a project they already have advertised in a lab, and usually they'll say whether it's funded or not. And in that you can check whether they'll do funding for international students. So yeah, like Nikita is right, there's a lot more funding for home students. And if you are also a home student and you find a PhD that you really like the sound of, but this hasn't got any funding, you can get doctoral loans through the government. But with that, you need to check what the money is kind of going towards, because obviously there's a lot of costs with a PhD. So you have tuition fees, you have money that you use in the lab, so your kind of resource budget, you've got living costs and any kind of travel costs or just extra things that happen when you do a degree. So it's definitely worth doing a research that the type of funding source you have covers the tuition fees, covers the living costs, covers they might have a budget for travel and conference attendance or something. So it's definitely worth checking for that. And you can also go on like the UKRI website or the other research councils will do a lot of funding. There's also quite a lot of companies that will fund PhDs with the kind of idea that they'll fund you for a four-year PhD, and then you maybe do 1 year working at that company, doing your research relevant to them. So it's definitely worth exploring options. But yeah, Find a PhD is a really good site for finding specific projects. I know quite a few people who got their PhD just through emailing a lecturer and being like, I really want to do a PhD. What opportunities do you have? And then you can kind of go off on your own and look for that funding. But that is a little bit more difficult and does require a bit more research on your part.
You can also check LinkedIn, sorry, I forgot to
Yeah.
mention, because quite a few labs also advertise on LinkedIn. And another good way, which is how I actually ended up with mine, is going to seminars. Imperial does a lot of seminars that are also open to the public and not just students. And those seminars, usually there's like a Q&A section afterwards, and for some of them you can go and chat to them and ask them, do you have any PhD positions available if you are interested in their research and that kind of thing as well.
Can I just add to that as well, that applying for a PhD is a little bit more like applying for a job. So PhDs do get advertised throughout the year, as do scholarships. So if there isn't a scholarship that is right for you just now, there might be one coming up a little bit further down the line. So you do sort of need to keep on top of checking those things. And if you do find a supervisor that you're interested in working with, go and talk to them. They might know that they've got a project coming up in 3 months' time, or they might have a colleague that they know. So yeah, it's not quite the same as when you're applying for an undergraduate degree, where it's very much this is the deadline that you need to get everything done by.
Super, thank you. That's really helpful. Maybe if I come a little bit, we had a question around, is it recommended to have work experience before pursuing this? And obviously, you know, our student panelists have slightly different experience. But Rosemary, if perhaps I come to you, obviously, you know, you worked before coming to do the masters, and maybe just, yeah, not necessarily a recommendation, but your experience of that, and maybe the kind of the cohort of people you're studying with, you know, what's the kind of people having work experience, that kind of thing.
Well, having work experience is good, but I don't think it's necessary, because I had colleagues, classmates who were straight out of undergrad and they did well. They did excellently on the postgraduate. But having work experience also helps for people who learn through experience. So it's more easy for you to pull on those, because you'll be working for the master's program that I did, Transport with Data Science. We worked with the World Bank, others worked with Arup, and you would have to do projects with them. So because I had worked in the field before, it was easier for me in terms of like relating and liaising with them. But then aside that, for the graduate study in itself, you don't really need work experience to be able to hack it.
That's helpful, thank you. And Chloe, do you mind just coming to you? So we just touched a bit, someone's asking about when does the application start? How do they apply? Maybe I think I feel like we covered PhD, but from the master's side, I know we touched on that, but yeah, many of the courses have application rounds, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the most important thing is, you know, our website is fantastic. I will sing its praises all day. When you're on that course page, please do scroll down and check to see if it is application rounds or if it's just a general opening of applications, which usually takes place in the autumn term, so around October time. So just make sure that you're staying informed with that and making a note of the application rounds. And I also get students ask me all the time, you know, is there any advantage to applying early? And not necessarily all applications are going to be looked at fairly, but we do advise you get your application in early, just for your own peace of mind, particularly if you're doing application rounds and or if you just want to receive a response a little bit quicker earlier on in the year, and it works better with scholarship deadlines too. So I personally would advise applying early.
And you'll see for those courses that have an application round for the master's level, it's kind of if you apply by a certain date. So I think the first round, the deadline is in January. Then you'll hear back by a certain date as well in those different rounds. So there's something hopefully quite nice about that you'll hear back by a certain date, which is helpful as well. So do look out for those. Just a quick admissions one I can cover. Someone's an international student. Their qualification was delivered in English. Do they need to take an English test? That'll depend on what the country your degree was delivered in. So I would say is don't worry too much about the English language qualification. That's something that there will be a requirement for, but please still do apply. We'd say like don't wait to have your English fully in place before applying, because as we're saying, do get your applications in. And we still have time for a few more. I'm just as I'm passing some more of the questions, Rebecca, if perhaps I come to you. I know you mentioned some of the different questions that you've got. I know you go out to events and speak to prospective postgrad students interested in masters and PhD. But any other kind of resources or things that might be helpful for them to note?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely get yourself familiar with the process. The sooner even if you're not thinking about applying this year, you're thinking next year, year after maybe, find out now what it is you need to be doing. I think the trickiest thing with postgrad is those variable deadlines. When you're applying for an undergrad, you have to get everything in by X date, but things are a little bit more flexible when it comes to postgrad. Also have a look at alternative funding to postgraduate studies. There are so many weird and wonderful little pots of money out there. As Rosemary said earlier, you can get scholarships that are quite a small amount of money, you can get some that are quite a large amount of money, and you can pull those together to sort of make up what you need. The other thing I'd say is really do your research with the research lab that you want to go and work in. Go and talk to them, as Nikita said earlier, go and talk to their current students. If the principal investigator is not so keen on you talking to their current students, maybe do a little bit more research before you go down that route, but make sure it works for you. You're going to spend quite a long time doing it, 3-4 years, and make sure it's definitely the right thing that you want to do. When I did my PhD, I tell people I accidentally did a PhD because it was not the plan and I didn't really understand what I was getting myself into. I was just like, oh, you're going to pay me to be a student for another 4 years. Yes, Rosemary, that was exactly what happened. I did not do the research and I probably made my life a little bit trickier along the way because I didn't really know what I was doing. And also thinking about when you're coming to the end of your postgraduate course, especially if you want to stay in academia, start thinking about what your next steps are. What sort of job do you want to go into? Do you want to start applying for fellowships, for grants? Because some of them have quite tight criteria as to you can only have been graduated for X many years after doing your PhD to be eligible for them. So yeah, research, timings, work out what the process is would be my big piece of advice.
Thank you. I think this is something, perhaps a question I could go to start with Amelia on, and the rest of our panelists feel free to come in as well, but maybe squishing together two questions. Someone's planning to do a PhD in the future and I'm kind of thinking, should they do an MRes or an MSc? Someone also is asking about, is it possible to go into a PhD with just an undergraduate degree, but from mentioning about taking an MRes, but just kind of maybe, I know it's just your take on it, but I just think it's helpful to get our audience thinking.
So these are really good questions. So it really for the whether you need a master's degree to do a PhD, it really depends. So in my lab, there was maybe 3 students who came straight out of undergrad, so they didn't have a master's degree, went straight into a PhD. One of them didn't even have a research project that they did. She just kind of she'd like a literature review and was like, oh, I really want to do research, and just kind of wrote a really good proposal and was super interested in it. So our supervisor was like, yeah, I'll give you a chance. But I think it really, having the master's, the MRes experience made me sure that I could do the research, because it's not something you've ever done before with this amount of independence. Because even an undergrad research project, someone has told you what to do. There are people around showing you how to do things. If you mess something up, there's not really any consequences. Whereas with a PhD, because it is 4 years, you are the only person kind of driving that project. You want to make sure it's for you before you maybe make such a big commitment, which is why I found doing a master's first was helpful, but you don't necessarily need to do one. The good thing about the MRes plus PhD, so the 1+3 courses, is if you did the MRes year and absolutely hated it, you do have an opportunity to stop after that MRes year, and you can kind of you still get the degree without kind of having to commit to the full 4 years. Like, the idea is that you would do the full 4 years, but you know, if things change on the way, there's a bit more of a way out. Whereas I think when you start a PhD, it's very rare that you stop before, like, obviously people do stop for different reasons, but it's very rare that you would stop before you've graduated. So I would definitely make sure it's what you want to do. And if you're not quite sure about that, a master's is a really good way to get a taste of that. And then for the question with whether you did a MSc or an MRes, yes, or whether a taught master's, so an MSc or a MRes or a Master of Research, I would say it depends on kind of what you're going into. If you're changing field, I would maybe do a taught one, because there's going to be a lot of skills that you might not have studied. So for me, I did biology to biomedicine. That wasn't really much of a jump, so doing an MRes was fine for me. I wasn't missing out on knowledge that I wouldn't have got from my undergrad. Whereas if I kind of went more into, I don't know, civil engineering, I would want to do a taught master's, because I'm missing a lot of information that I wouldn't have from my undergrad degree. So yeah, I guess it depends on how similar your undergrad is to the masters you want to go into, and also what type of teaching style you prefer. Like, I was not great at the sitting in lectures and kind of being taught that for a few hours. I much preferred being in the lab and actually doing things for myself. So for me, the MRes was like the more suitable option. But a lot of people kind of, especially if you've gone and worked for a bit, they actually prefer that classroom experience, because it kind of feels like being a student still, rather than kind of being left on your own and like, what do I do? So yeah, I think just go on kind of what experience do you need? Are you missing experience? If so, maybe do a taught masters. If you think you have the relevant kind of knowledge background and you want a bit more hands-on actual research, then I would recommend doing a MRes. So I hope that answers the question.
That's great. Thank you so much. We're just coming towards the end now. I could see a few similar questions, maybe Chloe, just coming to you around application. We kind of touched on it, but kind of application deadlines. Should I apply early? Will I get a response before the end of the application round deadline? And just kind of is tackling those, I think. And again, this is, you know, for MSc and MRes programs.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, for MSc and MRes programs, please do be informed as to when the application round closes. Each department is going to be different in terms of their reply times. Like, there's a lot of variables that are going on here. So I want to offer some reassurance that they are very good at getting in contact and keeping you informed, but it is going to vary based on what master's program or MRes that you're going for. So apply early on in the year when applications open, say in October or November time. Get that in, no matter if it's a rolling round or if it's, you know, a dead straight application process, like some of our departments do. And then you may well hear back. If it is on a application rounds, you may well hear back before the next application round begins. That's usually how it works at Imperial. But it's also important not to panic if you don't, because there are so many variables.
And I think maybe this goes without saying, maybe just as we start to come towards an end, that someone's asked, you know, should I apply as soon as possible, or should I take my time with my application? I don't want to speak for all of the panel, but I think it's sound advice to take your time with your application. It's not a kind of decision to rush. I hope that that's come across with this session, that it's not a straight line to getting somewhere necessarily, or making that decision. And again, the vast majority of the master's programs, there is part of this application round cycle. So, if you apply by the deadline for that round that you're in, then you'll be considered, alongside that cohort. So I'd say take your time. You might hear back sooner if you apply earlier in the round, but also you might not. So, if you want to take your time and submit it the day before, I'm not wired that way, but I know some people like to go up to the very last minute to submit something. Then you can. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. I might just come to Rebecca just to kind of any final notes or things that people should be looking out for. But we've covered a lot of things. I hope it's kind of, how audience is kind of starting to ask questions or think about what they want to study, how they apply. As mentioned at the beginning, if you're watching this as a recording or you've got any questions that haven't been answered, get in touch with the Open Days team. That's opendays@imperial.ac.uk, and we'll be able to pass them to the right departments. But Rebecca, if you want to share kind of final thoughts, and we'll finish up.
Absolutely, thank you. It's been so lovely to see so many people online. The last bit of advice I would give is it's quite common to apply for more than one course or more than one PhD, but please make sure that you're tailoring your applications for what it is you're applying. Think of it like applying for a job. I've shortlisted many people over the years, and the ones that have really tailored their experiences to what that job is looking for, what that PhD is looking for, they're the ones that are more likely to get to the next round. So do that research, make sure you can demonstrate all of those skills that are needed, and good luck with whatever your next step might be.
Thanks, everyone. Bye for now. Good luck with your applications.